World of markets, starting off in Asia. Markets mixed at the close, and this is as optimism in the US continues to fuel what is happening on that particular front when it comes to US stocks. Looking at how some of those individual bourses closed, Hang Seng Index closing 0.1% down, Shanghai Composite closing 0.7% up, and the Nikkei in Japan flat on the day. Looking at what's happening in Europe at this particular point, again, it's, markets been muted at this stage, with investors paying attention to the key meeting of central bankers that we spoke about earlier this week, the Jackson Hole meeting that is set to take place tomorrow and Friday, and of course looking forward to hearing a speech from Jerome Powell. When we look at what's happening with U.S. markets, U.S. futures inching higher, and it seems as though U.S.-China tensions are back on the cards. This comes after the Securities Exchange Commission in the United States saying that they are pledging to go ahead with a 3-year deadline for U.S.-listed Chinese firms to permit the auditing of their financial statements or risk being delisted. So we'll be keeping an eye on how that one plays out. But locally, to talk to us about how all of this is playing out in the markets, especially when it comes to our locally listed shares, we are joined by Martin Smith, who is from Anchor Capital. Martin, thank you so much for your time. JSE started off, a little bit weaker, mirroring what's happening with its global peers. How are we faring right now?
So I think there's a lot of moving parts at the moment. A couple of them are what's happening out of NASBAS, both with the corporate action with Prosus. Also, just obviously NASBAS is feeling the effect of the 10-cent sell down that we've seen in the last few weeks on the back of kind of Chinese regulations coming to the fore. I think you've also seen a little bit play out in the commodity kind of space with iron ore specifically kind of whipping around. And then lastly, like we mentioned earlier, I think you're waiting to see what the Fed do on Friday. So there's a lot of moving parts at the moment. Globally, like you said, things just continue to kind of trickle higher, grind higher over time. But yeah, all eyes on the Fed in the next couple of days.
So earlier on, Sen's Massmart, releasing a statement saying that they're looking to acquire OneCart. Let's talk about Massmart's transformation so far. I mean, what do you think of it?
So, the story with Massmart is basically Walmart brought in another CEO about 2 years ago. And like you mentioned, they're trying to turn the business around. Have they done as well as some of the other retailers in this pandemic in terms of managing their costs? And I don't think so. So I think they are trying very hard to turn the story around. And I think this move into e-commerce is another one of those kind of steps. If you look at the broadest kind of business, about 2% of their business is e-commerce at this moment. So again, with the way the world has changed and the way the world's kind of evolved post-COVID, I think they need to be on the front foot when it comes to e-commerce. So it's another kind of step in the right direction. But I think there's still a little bit of stuff that needs to play out. I'm also maybe not concerned, but I need to kind of look at what their balance sheet looks like. There's also a bit of cash burn at the moment. So that's something that's kind of making me want to stay on the sidelines for now, I think, with this business.
All right, so while we talk about looking on the sidelines for now, and I'm wondering how you feel about this. So Redefine earlier released their pre-close presentation. So, it's a little bit sobering, and I'm wondering whether you're looking from the sidelines as you assess REITs, or are you, bullish on that front?
Sobering is such a appropriate word to use. And they spoke about a turnaround in South Africa being 3 to 5 years out. And I still think they're facing a bit of kind of earnings headwinds. And you look at their vacancy sitting around 15%. Obviously, the retail and the office side of things also under pressure. So in terms of the kind of REIT space, I think very, very happy to sit on the sidelines for now. Obviously, not all REITs are made the same. And I think there might be pockets of opportunity, but kind of as a general theme, I'm happy to sit on the sidelines and just see how a lot of these businesses kind of progress and what the kind of new normal is. And also, I think, to see what they do with their balance sheets. Redefine, coming back to it, have done a very good job with their balance sheets. Their LTV was about 50% going into the pandemic. It's now at 41%. So they've done very well on that front. But again, a lot needs to still play out for me to kind of get bullish on this sector.
So here's a fun question that I always like to ask every now and again. If I gave you monopoly money and you were flushed, as they would say, and you wanted to entertain the speculator in you, where would you be throwing your monopoly money?
This is a tough question for live TV. I think there's still opportunity with a lot of the small cap shares on the JSE. I think you look at them, some of them are trading at crazy valuations. And if the world gets back to normal, which we're all hoping we kind of towards the end of this COVID story, then I think you're going to see a lot of opportunity and a lot of risk kind of appetite returning. And a lot of these small caps that are trading on 1, 2, 3, 4 times multiples kind of being bought up. So one for the brave, but I think that's maybe where I think there's some speculative money to be made.
All right. So before I let you go, key events that you're going to be looking out for on your screen, or any company information out there globally that could be happening, or locally as well?
I think everything comes back down to Jackson Hole and what happens there on Friday. I mean, it's such a big kind of event in determining where markets go. And I think the big driver of markets over the next kind of 6 to 12 months is going to be interest rates and US inflation, and obviously what happens with the tapering situation. So importantly to look out for is you've got tapering on the one side, but then you also interest rates. They're not directly correlated. I think tapering is the US starting to see a proper recovery. When it comes to interest rates being hiked, it's about that 2% inflation, the labor market coming back to kind of 100%. So I think that's going to be a massive determinant of what happens with markets. So I want to see what happens on Friday. I don't think there's going to be anything kind of unexpected. I'm anticipating it being a relative non-event, but I think the big thing is just to watch and keep an eye out for when something happens with tapering.
All right, Martin, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That is Martin Smith, who's a portfolio manager at Anchor Capital. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more news for you.